Better Outcome segment. Understanding your mortgage options during a divorce. Divorce is never easy. It's often painful, complicated, something that most people just want to get through. Whether you're legally separated, getting divorced, or already divorced, you may need to remove your ex from your mortgage and assume the loan on your own, and you may be wondering what your options are. I'm going to share some simple tips to consider if you're going through a divorce. Often, in a divorce, the spouses either agree to sell their home or refinance their mortgage so that only one person's name is on it. If one spouse is going to stay in the home and not sell it, you'll have to agree to what will happen with the mortgage. The divorce agreement will then spell out who is responsible for paying the mortgage. Perhaps you want to make sure that your ex is no longer financially responsible for paying the loan. If you have both agreed that you'll keep the house, or you might want to make sure that your ex won't get any of the proceeds if you sell the house, or they don't inherit it if you die or when you die. No matter why you're removing your spouse from your mortgage, you'll have to follow certain steps intended to protect you, your ex-spouse, and the mortgage lender. Here are some shared questions that come up regarding the mortgage and divorce, beginning with, can I remove my ex's name from the home and the mortgage? First, you need to understand that removing a spouse from a home, also known as title, and removing them from the mortgage, like a refinance, are two completely separate tasks. Many look at title and mortgage as being one and the same. They are not. You can remove your ex's name from title, yes. In fact, in instances where one spouse has agreed to take over the house as part of the divorce settlement, it's wise to have the former spouse's name removed as quickly as possible so they legally won't get any of the proceeds if you sell the property or inherit it if you pass away. Removing one party from title does not, however, remove them from the current mortgage lien, assuming the loan is in both of your names. The title transfer is accomplished through a simple grant deed or interspousal deed. The same cannot be said for the mortgage, which requires one spouse to qualify for a new mortgage on their own. Let's take a look at those steps, beginning with taking your spouse off of the mortgage. You'll most likely not be excited about this news. There's only one way to have your spouse's name removed from the mortgage, and that's to apply for a loan to refinance the mortgage in your name only. Why? Well, your existing mortgage was approved with both of your names, giving the lender two sources of repayment. Although you and your ex may decide between yourselves that only the person who is getting the house will be responsible for paying the mortgage, that agreement does not affect the lender. In other words, the mortgage lender can still come after your ex or you if your ex is getting the spouse for repayment if the payments are not made unless and until you refinance in your own name alone. This means that while you may not be living in the house, you could still have it affect your credit if your ex decides to not make the payments. Something to consider on both sides. You will have to complete a new mortgage application and qualify on your own for the house. You'll have to prove that you'll be able to make payments on your own. The lender will look at your income, assets, debts, and credit score. If your credit and financials are not strong enough on their own to qualify for the loan you need, you'll have to produce other options, such as making a larger down payment or asking someone to co-sign the loan for you. Removing your ex from title. Next step is remove your ex from the title. This is typically done through a quitclaim deed or an interspousal deed, meaning that your ex gives up his or her rights to the property. This deed is then filed with the county clerk's office, and title of the property becomes updated. Sometimes it makes sense to refinance this loan pre-divorce prior to the judgment or dissolution going into effect. Oftentimes, the refinance is done prior to any settlement agreement being put together. If you're updating title to a home in a divorce while still legally married, you will need to hold title as a married man or woman as his or her sole and separate property. Then, once the divorce is finalized, you can file another deed changing title from your sole and separate property to an unmarried man or unmarried woman. These are just a few of the important processes and timing considerations associated with the division of property. Should I allow my spouse to have exclusive use of the home if I'm still on title? If you agree in a divorce settlement to give your spouse the home, ideally they'll refinance the home mortgage in their name only. This will provide reassurance that you no longer have any financial responsibility and then will be able to confidently sign over title to the home. The exception to this is easy for me to say. The exception to this is if there is a deferred distribution whereby both parties agree to maintain possession of the house until such time that a court orders the house sold, usually when there are no longer minor children living in the home. What are the risks of not removing the X from the mortgage? A couple of primary risks. Credit could be affected. It could be hard to qualify for a new home loan. The divorce settlement agreement might state that the retaining spouse, the in-spouse, is responsible for all mortgage and housing expenses, but the credit bureaus do not care which party the property was assigned to. If you are co-signed on a mortgage with your ex-spouse, from creditors' point of view, you have agreed to keep up timely payments. In the event that a payment is missed, this will be reported directly to the 3 credit bureaus, which are Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. What happens if you want to buy a new home? Several items to consider. We don't have time to go into all of them right now, but you can go to mycdlp.com. We share all of these things there. And we also have the My DYM workbook. That's a Divorcing Your Mortgage workbook. My DYM workbook, mydymworkbook.com. And you can get that information there as well.